Should the Chicago Bears re-sign Gervon Dexter Sr.? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chicago Bears Breeze. I am your host, Philip Charles Vanderhayden IV, a.k.a. Philly the Fourth. I'm here with you tonight to talk about Gervon Dexter. It's a very, very curious case, right? So there was a deal that was just made in the NFC North that was unfortunately made, or fortunately, depending, I guess, on your look at it, by our arch rivals to the north. And that's the Green Bay Packers. They just re-signed one of their D tackles to a deal that is very comparable to what Gervon Dexter Sr. might be demanding in a new deal for himself. For those who don't know, Gervon Dexter is entering the last year of his rookie deal. And when it comes to re-signing him, it's not as much of a slam dunk as you might think it is, especially when you consider the Bears obviously have had a hard time getting a pass rush, right? And when you consider that this was their second, Gervon Dexter had the second most sacks on the team last year, you might think that it's a done deal, because as a pass rusher, he has continued to improve. He has continued to be a difference maker from the three technique. A D tackle who's getting 5+ sacks a season, that's valuable. But then you consider what he's doing in the run game, especially last season, when he's supposed to be getting better at every area. And last year just raises some red flags. And it's going to make, considering the Bears have some very hard decisions to make, like Darnell Wright is also entering the last year of his deal. There's no way the Bears let him walk, right? The Bears only have $8.7 million in cap room right now for next year. And so, it's just a very tough thing to consider. The Bears are going to have to start making some very tough calls, because very soon here, especially next year is one thing, but in a few years, Caleb Williams is going to start getting paid over $70 million a year. That's just the facts. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in football. At least when we sign him, he will be. Will someone else get a bigger contract later that offseason or the next year? Yes, because that's how it works. The next good quarterback who's up for an extension is going to get paid more. But that doesn't change our situation. Once we're paying him $70 million a year, the margin for error is going to get a lot smaller, and the Bears are going to be relying a lot more on their draft classes and on undrafted free agents, being able to get guys on deals. Hopefully you're winning. That's why it'd be really crucial if the Bears can make a Super Bowl run before Caleb's contract comes into play. Because then you might be able to get some veterans who are I want to win a Super Bowl. I'll take less money to come to Chicago. They've already got it going on. We've seen it happen. Now, there are players that might take a chance on the Bears, but once you actually have at least a Super Bowl appearance in your belt, under your belt, your chances of being able to lure guys for team-friendly deals goes dramatically up. And obviously having Caleb Williams also helps that as well. But, it would help if the Bears had some winning behind in their recent history before they start asking guys to take pay cuts for team-friendly deals. Anyways, let me give you guys the case on Gervon Dexter, right? Because it sounds like we're going to have to pay this guy $20 million a year to sign him. And that's an expensive piece of business. When you consider, okay, is he worth it? You got to consider all the facets. And here we go. This first article talks about, this first article, by the way, was on heavy.com from Isaac Zuniga. And he's talking about the deal with Gervon Dexter. Dexter is heading into the final year of his $6.7 million rookie deal and has developed into one of the key players on the defensive line. Bleacher Report's Mo Moton believes the Bears believes Dexter is the Bears' most important contract extension ahead of the 2026 NFL season, writing, over 3 seasons, Dexter has developed a knack for making plays in the backfield. He's produced a steady uptick in sacks and tackles for loss. Because of his pass rushing numbers, the 24-year-old could command a lucrative deal in free agency next offseason. Chicago can get ahead of those demands by offering him north of $25 million annually. On the interior, he could become the long-term complement to edge rusher Montez Sweat. He went on further to write, according to the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Green Bay Packers agreed to a 3-year, $57 million contract extension with a $20 million signing bonus with defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt, who is a similar comparison to Gervon Dexter Sr. Both are high-round draft selections by their respective teams who have grown into dependable starters in the middle of the defensive line. With Wyatt set to earn $19 million per year, it gives someone like Dexter more leverage to negotiate a higher annual salary. So I thought I took all that into consideration, and with all due respect to Isaac Zuniga's reporting, I didn't think that he talked about Gervon Dexter's run defense nearly enough. Like all of this whole story talks about all of the good parts of Gervon Dexter, but it doesn't talk about the reason why this is like if Dexter had already been showing out in all of his facets, he would already be re-signed. And for this article, all due respect to Isaac Zuniga, to talk all these good things about Dexter, who I do like. I like Dexter. I want him to succeed. But we got to be honest when we're breaking these things down. Because if he was as good, like he makes it sound like Dexter is just like this rising star. And so does Mo Moton from Bleacher Report as well. And it's like, well, yes, he does make some plays. But if he was as good as you guys are talking, like you're not mentioning any of his negatives, then the Bears defensive line would be so much better than it is. Because one player can make that big of a difference. I'm not saying he can be this guy and nobody should be held to this standard, but look at Aaron Donald. You see what kind of difference he makes. He makes a defensive line just by being on it, right? So let's not put Gervon Dexter in that category. And there's a big reason for why. I consulted AI first, and then I got an article that wrote about it too. But first, if you look at this, Gervon Dexter Sr. is highly praised as a pass rusher, but remains a work in progress against the run. His 6'6" frame causes occasional leverage disadvantages, making him susceptible to getting uprooted by double teams and inside zone runs, though he has improved his take on technique for horizontal concepts. Dexter's run defense metrics reflect this disparity between his pass rushing and run stopping abilities. PFF grades. Here, and I will say this before I go on, PFF is not the Bible, but it is a resource to use. PFF grades. He earned a run defense grade of 44, ranking 107th amongst interior defensive linemen. While the bad run reps can be significant, he has shown steady growth in shooting gaps and making plays in the backfield, evidenced by his uptick in tackles for loss and 7 sacks. The scheme reality. Because of his physical traits, he excels most when utilizing his penetration skills, but he can be overpowered when forced to anchor against heavy vertical blocking schemes. Okay. So that's that. But what about when we consult a different article? And this article is by Mike Moriatis from Bears on SI. Nobody would dispute that 6 sacks and 38 pressures are impressive numbers for an interior defender like Dexter. In fact, those totals rank top 10 and top 20, respectively, among players at defensive tackle in 2025. And that just goes hand in hand with us talking about his improvement as a pass rusher is real. 6 sacks, 38 pressures, impressive numbers. Again, yeah, top 10 in sacks among defensive tackles, top 20 in pressures amongst defensive tackles. If he was even just an average run stopper, I believe he would be getting re-signed. But this just breaks it down for you. The problem is that Dexter leaves a lot to be desired in yet another important category for interior defenders, stopping the run. Dexter's best season in that area came in 2024 when he posted a Pro Football Focus grade of 60.3, which is only average at best. But that showing is sandwiched in between seasons in which the former second-round pick tallied 36.2 in 2023 and 44 in 2025. What makes Dexter's weakness more concerning is the fact that Dexter's running mate, Grady Jarrett, was also putrid against the run last season with a 44.5 grade. That's why we expected the Bears to make a big addition on the inside this offseason, yet the team only added Neville Gallimore, who is just as bad against the run as Dexter and Jarrett, and they waited until the 6th round to draft one. All of that being said, right? I will say that the Bears draft pick in the 6th round is intriguing. He was one of the highest RAS scores in the entire draft, especially amongst his position. I think he had one of the highest RAS scores. For those who don't know, that's like an athleticism score that they give you at the combine. He had one of the highest defensive tackle athleticism scores of all time. Jordan Vandenberg from Georgia Tech, I believe Georgia Tech. Yeah, he was a Georgia Tech defensive player. So again, now, does Ryan Poles need to give more resources to this line? Probably, but when it comes to the draft, the Bears aren't going to reach. They were unlucky with the way the board fell when it came to pass rusher and defensive tackle in this past draft. Next draft is known to be loaded, per my man Jacob Infante at defensive tackle. That being said, so the Bears could just let Dexter walk. They could have him play this season out and then let him walk. Now, I know that, and if they don't get who they want in the draft, they could always franchise tag Gervon Dexter. Now, I know that that's not exactly the route that a lot of people would want. We want to be able to say, like, we got our guy of the future. And it would hurt to let Dexter walk because while he does seem to be a very poor run defender, he's also one of the best upcoming pass rushers at his position. So it's a damn shame. Like, if we could just get average, like what he gave in 2024, a grade of 60 he got from Pro Football Focus. That's so much better than the 44 he turned in last year or the 30 whatever he turned in 2023. If we can just get average in the run game, that would be okay. And then, you ideally would find a one technique who's better against the run than he is against the pass. And then that way they balance each other out. But like Grady Jarrett next to Gervon Dexter is a problem, and not in a good way. It's a problem in that they're getting pushed around, and that's resulting in our linebackers getting people on them. Ideally, what you want is you want your defensive line to be such a problem, so hard to block, so hard to hold up against, that those blockers don't end up coming off to block the linebackers, and the linebackers are allowed to shoot their gaps, strafe sideline to sideline, shoot the gaps and make the plays. But when they've got offensive linemen right on them from the get-go, because it's so easy to get these defensive tackles where you want them to go, and so you don't ever have to double them, or at worst, you have to you double for a couple seconds, and then one of them breaks off to the backer. Like, the Bears need better production from them in the run game. That is enough said. And Grady Jarrett's better than that. Like, I know he's embarrassed for how he played last year, and he should be. Take it personally, Grady Jarrett. By any chance, if you watch these, I know you're good enough to get back to where you were. Show us. Be that. We need that. We cannot have, like, the Bears. It's one thing if you're getting torn up on pass downs, right? But when you're getting torn up downs 1 through 4, you're not going to have much of a chance. And I will say that the Bears picked it up in like a couple of meaningful games last year. The second half of the Green Bay game, really the whole Rams game, they played well. So like if we can get that kind of effort more often, then we're okay. But the San Francisco game is the game that sticks out in my mind as a game we couldn't stop anything they were doing. And even though our offense was scoring on every possession, our defense wasn't getting any stops. And that a lot of that stems right there in the D tackle position, playing run defense. We need Dexter and Jarrett to hold up against run blocking on downs 1 and 2. We need that because we need to get the teams to 3rd and long. If we get them to 3rd and long, the Bears secondary has enough talent where they can make a play. They can cover and they can make a play on 3rd and long. But when teams are getting first downs in 2 downs because they run the ball on first, run the ball on second, first down, that is not sustainable. That's going to lead to losing. So the Bears have a very interesting decision to make when it comes to Gervon Dexter because, again, he's one of the best up-and-coming pass rushing prospects at defensive tackle. Is still only 24 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Gervon Dexter, who, by the way, Jordan Vandenberg, our 6th-round pick, is already 24 years old. He's an old defensive tackle. So I'm hopeful for Jordan Vandenberg. I hope at the least, if he could just be a strong run defending D tackle, that would be huge. Because then, honestly, we probably let Dexter walk. And it's not because I don't want him to get paid. Someone will pay Dexter, right? So there's going to be some defensive line out there that has 3 good run defenders, and they just need some pass rush. And Dexter is going to be a saving grace for them if we don't re-sign him. And I want him to, hope for the best for his career. But Dexter, and I think he would know this if you asked him, he would acknowledge he needs to be better in the run game. If he is better in the run game this season, if he's at least average, I think that the Bears will figure out a way to re-sign both him and Darnell Wright. But as it stands right now, it's got to just be Darnell Wright. There's no way you're going to try it because you're going to have to get rid of players to re-sign Gervon Dexter. If you want to get rid, it's probably going to take, you're probably going to have to get rid of guys already to keep Wright. But if you want to keep both him and Dexter, it's going to be expensive and you're going to have to let some guys walk, trade some guys. It's not going to be an easy decision, but it is going to be what we have to do. So let me know in the comments below. Do you want to keep Gervon Dexter? What would you like to pay him? We did hear the number of at least $25 million somewhere in there, but I think by Mo Moten. I don't know about that number. $20 million sounds a lot more reasonable for somebody who's so imbalanced in their strengths and weaknesses. What do you guys think? What would you like to pay him? Or would you like to see us move on and hopefully Jordan Vandenberg or somebody that we draft next year or maybe another free agent next year is the answer? Let me know in the comments below. Please do leave a like on the video. My name is Philip Charles Vanderhayden IV, a.k.a. Philly the Fourth. As always, long live the Chicago Bears, but most importantly, long live you, Breeze Nation. Everybody have a great night and bear down, baby.